Hi, welcome to Nissa's Nursery, and today I'm going to show you how to save some seeds. So it's autumn in Australia at the moment, so of course all of the summer, spring veggies have finished up and it's time to save some seed. So I'm going to show you two types of seed, both are really tiny and fiddly, that is lettuce and some basil. Okay, so I've saved some flowers off my basil plant here, so these are all nice and dried and ready to go, and I've also been saving some flowers from my lettuce plants. So all you need for this is basically just your normal kind of kitchen type sieve. I actually have a couple of sizes of sieve, just depending on, the size of seed that I'm harvesting. Obviously, if you're talking about sunflower seeds, you probably wouldn't need a strainer because they're quite large and heavy. But if you're talking about something much smaller like basil or lettuce seeds, and this is ideal. If you're dealing with an extra small seed, like wormwood seeds, you might want a tea strainer instead of a flower strainer. So I also have a bowl and of course somewhere to store my seeds when I'm finished. So let's get started with the basil seeds. Now, depending on how fiddly you want to get with this, you could grab your dry flour. It's always best to leave these on the plant as well to dry out, but what you'll see, if I can get this small enough, is inside these little petals, pull one off so I can show you, the seeds, little seeds, are actually sitting inside there. There's usually maybe 3 or 4 in each little petal, so you can see, oh, there's another one. So you can see how just one basil plant, which I've gotten 3 little paper bags off, one plant can actually give you several hundred seeds that you can save and replant in your next spring. If you're lucky enough to be in a warmer environment, of course you get to have a perpetual basil. I'll do another video on that sometime. So, a couple of ways you can do it. You can just leave them in a paper bag, scrunch them up, hit them around a little bit. You will lose more seed that way, but it's easier, faster, than the way I'm about to do it. I like to be a little bit more thorough, so what I'm going to do is grab my flowers, my dried flowers, and pinch off the flower petals and just rub them between my hands. And what I'm doing is I'm just breaking up the fibers of the flower petals themselves. So just rubbing them between my hands. You don't have to be too thorough. You can actually see that there are some seeds already falling out there. And now I smell really nice. So this particular basil is a sweet basil, but all basil seeds will react the same way. So whatever type of basil you've got, you can treat like this. Now I'm going to speed up the footage a little bit and come back to you when I have pulled all the petals off my flowers. Okay, so whether you chose the beating and shaking the bag option, or whether you went along with me and meticulously scrunched up everything, I've only done one of my 3 paper bags worth, so there's quite a bit in here. Regardless of what method you chose, you'll wind up with a little bowl full of a bunch of seeds and a bunch of chaff, none of which is very helpful for planting. So when you are wanting to remove the chaff, now of course you can use the little blowing on it method to try and separate it out, but what I find with little seeds like basil and also lettuce seeds you'll see shortly is that they're quite light, and it's really easy to blow them out of the bowl as well. So how do we get around this? So this is where the handy dandy strainer comes in. So I'm just going to put all of my bits back in the bag so I can use the bowl to collect my seed. I stole this bowl from my husband. He likes to use this to take paw prints from mushrooms that grow nearby. But anyway, this is my seed collecting bowl for now. He'll get it back. Okay, so I'm just going to empty the contents of the bag into the strainer here. And you can already see that there are seeds coming out. So I'm just going to give this a shake, and little bits of small debris will fall out, but so will the seeds. And we can give it a bit of a help. Maybe break it up a little bit more. And it's okay to lose some seeds, unless you want to sit there and literally peel open every petal by hand. You are going to lose some seeds until you're pretty confident that you've got it all. I'm looking at this, and this is largely just fibers of the plant at this point. Okay, so I'm just going to tip this out. Okay, and what we have left is seed and some really fine fibers of the plant. Now this is where it is best to blow on the chaff. So what you're going to do is going to circulate it and gently blow. And watch this. Really gently. And you can see what we're left with is largely seed. So before I store these, I would go through and just do a little bit of a better job at that. Make sure that all of the bits, the dried bits of fiber are gone. But I'm just going to set this aside and show you the lettuce seeds now. Okay, so lettuce seeds. Now, I just let a couple of my lettuce plants go to seed. You really don't need to let many go at all, maybe one or two of the varieties that you've got there. And what will happen, it will bolt and grow a very tall stem. And what you will find when they're ready to go is these tiny little fluffy flowers, a little bit like dandelions and things like that. So if you think about it in nature, it's grown really tall so that it can get over all of the other vegetation, and then it gets these little wispy bits where the wind can grab them and then spread the seed from there. So I pulled these off my plant and had them in my greenhouse to dry. It's definitely most beneficial to let them dry on the plant in the ground. And if you live in a dry environment, that's a really good way to do it. But we were expecting a lot of rain here. Also, likewise, if you live in a humid environment, I just put them in a bucket and let them dry out in my greenhouse. And over time, more and more of these little flowers opened up. So like the basil, you can literally just shake them in a paper bag if you want to, or you can do the tearing the fiber option that I did. So once again, I'm going to tear the fibers up a little bit as much as I can. You just grab a little handful and just rub. And you can see the little seeds on the end there. So rub. All right, I'm going to speed it up, and once again, I'll come back to you. Okay, so just pick out any of the larger bits that you can see, stems, leaves. The reason why we want to separate these out is because those are the bits that can carry any diseases if you've got them, fungal spores, things like that. So it's good to remove them. I will say, however, if you are planning on planting these right away, you do not have to do this step. You can just put them straight back into the ground. Nature will take care of it. And I'll just show you on this flower. It's kind of a perfect example, actually. I'll show you how the seeds grow in it. There's actually, per flower, so many seeds. It's insane. Once you've got one lettuce plant flowering, that's it. You've got a lifetime supply. So I'll show you, hopefully it's in focus here. You've got the floofy bits on the top, but if you open up the base of the flower, you can see all of the seeds in there. So those are all little baby lettuces waiting to be born. Okay, so once again, I've only done one of 3 of my paper bags. Gives you an idea how many are in each plant. Okay, so I'm just rubbing a little bit more to just break them up a bit. Removing some of the larger pieces that we don't need. And I can already see that there's a lot of seeds in here. And I am covered in lettuce fluff. It's like it's snowing. Okay, so just like with the basil, I'm going to put everything back in the bag so I can put it into the sieve. These are just those cheap sandwich bags from from like the grocery store. They're everywhere. Okay, and let's start shaking. Give it a bit of help. And look in there. Is there any seeds? Lettuce seeds are a bit oblong, so you may need to do a little bit of work to get them through. But like before, we just want to make sure that any chaff that's left in there is super small and super light, so that we don't have to blow away the seeds. Essentially, what you're looking to do is ensure that anything that's in there is lighter than the seed. I think realistically that's pretty much done. Give it another shake for good measure. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Let's throw that out. So this is what we've got left, and that's ideal. So I can see a lot of little seeds in there from the lettuce, and I can also see a lot of the floof there. So same thing as before, I'm just going to cycle it around. The cool thing about lettuce seeds is they're a lot heavier at this point, and if you give it a little bit of a shake, you can see all of the floof is coming to the top there. Okay, so moving it around, gentle blowing. Just going to break it up a bit more. Starting to see what's left. A whole bunch of seeds. I might even run this through the finer strainer and see if we can get it a bit better. So this is my tea strainer. You can see that the holes are quite a bit different to the other one. I have an even finer one again, but let's see. Now this one, the seeds themselves won't really make it through, but the leftover chaff will. Okay, so you can see that there's just the really fine chaff left in there, and in our strainer we have some really good lettuce seeds. I'm just going to give it a bit more, because the lettuce seeds themselves don't fit through this one. We're just getting rid of all of that chaff. Might just give it a really gentle little blow. And we'll empty this one out. It does take a little bit of working, but we get there. Okay, I'm going to give it really, really gentle little blow. And look at that. Lettuce seeds, ready to be lettuce. So like I said, this is just from a handful of flowers, and we weren't even really that particular with it, but you can see how many the plant gives you. The seeds, depending on the lettuce variety you've got, might look a little bit different to mine. This is a very dark pigmented lettuce, but the seeds might be pale, but this here is about the size that you're looking for. Anything smaller than that will be immature and unlikely to germinate. Okay, so now that you have your seeds, you can either plant them or store them. So when it comes to storing your seeds, I'm a little bit naughty. This is my seed keeper, made by the very talented Taz Butcher for me, all hand burned, and it's got Yggdrasil on the front. Absolutely beautiful. So I store my seeds because I have to deal with so many at a time. They're all catalogued, and I do store them in little plastic bags. This is not ideal storage because moisture can build up in them if there was any left in the seeds. I am really, really careful to make sure that there's no moisture left over, so they're really well dried in a dehydrator before I put them in here. Also, I'm using them so frequently with selling the plants that it doesn't matter too much. But ideally what you want to do, particularly if you're saving all of these until next spring, make sure they're really dried and store them in a glass container. This is also really good because it means it's protected from any anything that wants to eat your seeds, like little mice that we have at the moment. It's actually why I moved my sunflower seeds into a glass jar, because they were found. So glass jar is always your best option, and that will ensure that your seeds stay free from moisture buildup. So saving two different types of very small, very fiddly seed. If you've got any questions, please let me know, or if there's something else you'd like to see, I will absolutely try and facilitate that for you. Directly after this video, I'm going to be filming a little bit of Patreon exclusive content around planting the lettuce seeds as well, so be sure to head over to my Patreon and check it out. Thanks so much for supporting me and watching my video. If you like the content, please share it around, and there'll be more content coming soon.